We have to find out what lights us up, who we are, and make that part of our full lives, no matter what your career aspirations are.
But we can also find moments to thrive during these times, and we can find ways to bring everybody along in the best ways possible that are meaningful.
But every individual has their current state. That's where they're at. And it's real important, more important than ever, that people understand where they're at.
It's so important to really start to go and dig in a little bit deeper when you're trying to figure out where it is that your purpose lies. We all have a purpose in this world. Sometimes it's hard to find out what that is.
So sometimes we're just not all ready for change. We're not. Welcome to Becoming You. Allison, it is so great to have you back on the show. And Jess, welcome for the first time. Thank you both for being here today.
Great. We're so excited to be here with you. It's been a while, Katrina. And I mean, what can we say? It's, we're excited to be here as, Three Keys Consulting. And, it's the last time we were like in the beginning of our journey. And now, done a lot. I think we have a lot to share with the audience about Becoming You. Just as a reminder, I'm Allison Wright. You and I met when we were in our big corporate careers and corporate gigs, and now
I was just remembering to the first time we met in person, and you and I were wearing almost identical patterns. I had a dress on, you had a shirt on, or vice versa, and they were nearly the same.
That's so funny.
Isn't that crazy? And then I'm looking at us
That
today.
is so true.
I think it's just like remarkable. And that was such a unique pattern too. It had like greens and snake skin, and it was like so different. And then today, the three of us, unplanned, all wearing blue and shades of blue. It's just like unbelievable how serendipitous everything has been.
That is really funny. So anyway, and then now, fully we are into year 3 of Three Keys Consulting. We have been working with some amazing clients around the US and helping them realize their dreams and their vision through change and transformation and their personal leadership. And it always comes up, no matter why our client calls us to start with, it's always has some component of developing themselves and becoming their best selves, for their organization. It's actually, there's a lot of research behind this. And at the same time, I think people are starting to realize that more than ever. And, Jess and I really want to, we have some, a good conversation today about really what helps set you up for yourself. Nowadays, there's a lot going on in that corporate America and in other organizations. We even have some, CEOs out there saying, hey, you're here for a little while kind of thing. It's, we're over the, same company for 50, 60 years, career. And I think one of the things that's really important for us as individuals is that we have to find out what lights us up, who we are, and make that part of our full lives, no matter what your career aspirations are. So anyway, that's a little bit of me and thinking about me, but Jess?
Oh, hi, everybody. It's so great to be here. Katrina, thank you so much for having us on your show. We're so excited to be here. I have kind of lived and worked in the world of change for almost 20 years now, and it's just a place that I've become borderline obsessed with. I love helping people as they're going through change and finding out that you don't just have to treat change as a slog, right? That we're all going through, that's uncomfortable and weird, which it is, right? That's definitely true. Don't get me wrong, but we can also find moments to thrive during these times, and we can find ways to bring everybody along in the best ways possible that are meaningful. And so, when I started working in change, this was really what pulled me into it, was this idea that we can bring people into this. It doesn't have to be this edict of here's the change, now go do it. We can actually make things a lot more successful, a lot more sustainable if we actually care for the people that are involved with the things that are impacting them. And it's been a really big part of my life. I leverage the things that I do at work with my kids to help them when they're going through change. I use it as a mom. I use it as a wife and a sister and a daughter. I think it's just it becomes part of who I am, and it's just a really impactful thing that I think we can all grow our muscle in and find ways to become more resilient as the world keeps changing faster and faster and faster.
Totally, Jess. And thank you so much for articulating it in such a beautiful, kind of peaceful way that you did. I've really been enjoying, since Allison first introduced us, I've been enjoying watching your brand grow and develop on LinkedIn. And you and I have gone back and forth in the comments. And something that comes to mind even right now while you're chatting about change in our lives and how it shows up in all these different areas. One of the conversations you and I and a couple of our common connections were having was about the fact that there are some folks who are early adopters to change and they're ready to jump right in and full steam ahead and very positive about it. And then there are resistors who they offer a lot of value in a lot of different ways, but they can cause a little bit of friction with the ones who want to just, okay, this is what we're doing. Like, let's go and do it. And then there's people who kind of question, why are we going forward? Do we have to? Can we just keep doing it the way we've been doing it? And yet they also are very valuable components to whatever work it is that we're doing or the areas that they exist in life. And I think your feedback at the time was, we all serve a purpose and, meet people where they're at. And that phrase really stuck with me. I just wanted to know, have you had any thoughts on that since then? If you can elaborate on it too, because sometimes meeting people where they're at could also be frustrating. And we wonder, why can't they just meet us where we're at? Why do I have to always go to them? So have you heard any of this in your discussions too?
Oh my gosh, all the time. And this meet people where they're at concept is something that Allison and I remind each other about regularly because we're one of those people who like to go, go, go. We are excited for change and we recognize maybe that other people aren't. And that's okay too. One of the things is really important to know is that we need everybody to be part of these conversations. And I do think that friction that's caused by people who are outwardly seeming to be resisting change are really crucial parts of the conversation, and we can't ignore them. They have really valuable thoughts and ideas. They have really powerful stories to share.
I have this intrinsic struggle of sometimes wondering, why can't they just meet me where I'm at, and I reflected on that because I really value your opinion a lot. I respect the work that you're doing. And I thought to myself, okay, who am I to ask, like, not to meet someone where they're at? And I kind of envisioned hiking on a mountain. And if I'm, many steps ahead of the person I actually want to be hiking with, I'm going to have to slow down and hike with them. Otherwise, we won't be hiking together. And sometimes you're not as conditioned as the person you're hiking with or whatever the case is. And someone's ahead and someone's behind, someone needs a break, whatever the case is. So that was kind of a visual metaphor I came up with to apply to the workspace of sometimes we're just not all ready for change. We're not at the forefront of wanting to implement the new processes we hear about. So I'm curious if you had any additional thoughts on that. And again, just wanted to, thank you for being who you are and the way that you outline the work that you're doing. I know you're helping a lot of people think more intentionally about how they show up in their lives.
Well, thank you. That was very kind of you to say. And also that metaphor is just like chef's kiss, because I think that it really is a great visualization of what it maybe feels like oftentimes when we're ready to go and others aren't as ready as we are. This meet people where they're at is a mantra that Alice and I use, I think, pretty regularly. And it's something that we oftentimes remind each other about, because I think we're those folks who love change and are ready to go. We see the connections, we can go quickly and we're ready. And we also recognize that that's not everybody. One of the things that I've been talking about and thinking about recently too is that change often has a big component of grief with it. And so if we're not meeting people where they're at, then we're kind of robbing them of their opportunity to sit with and acknowledge this grief that they have. And the grief is for you're mourning what was or what is and what's going away or shifting and moving. You're grieving the fact that you really knew how to live in a space, even if it was uncomfortable. You know what that's like. You know what to accept and what to expect. And when that goes away, you know a whole lot of nothing at first. You have an idea or a vision of what maybe is possible, but how we get there is really difficult. Where are we on that mountain, right? As we're hiking up it, it's really hard because sometimes it feels like there's a clear path in front of us, and other times it feels like there's thick trees surrounding us, and we can't see in front of us far enough to know where to go. The horizon, we can't see the horizon to move forward, right? And so we think it's really important to make sure that we're doing those things and to trying to meet people where they're at. And I think that when we think about the people who are gung ho and the people who are labeled this view of being like the resistors of a change and people in the middle who aren't really sure, we all serve a really important purpose when it comes to change. And we all have some really great thoughts and ideas, and most of us care a whole lot about where it is that we're heading. And whether that's a personal change or a change that you're going through at your organization or something within your community, we all have a really important role to play in these changes. And we don't get to play those roles and we don't get to create a really incredible change if we're not letting other people be part of the conversation.
Such a great point. And thank you for that insight and that feedback. Allison, do you have anything to add? Anything that's coming to mind?
When I think about where we're going when it comes to change and how to bring ourselves into the change, because just like when we say meet people where they're at, the question is, where are they at? And that's real important personally, as an organization, and for leaders to understand that. And I mean, Jess and I do a lot of work around really understanding, as we would say, the current state. But every individual has their current state. That's where they're at. And it's real important, more important than ever, that people understand where they're at. And that really brings us to what we had discussed about bringing to becoming you today. And it's about finding and understanding what your purpose is. Jess and I use the concept of purpose for a lot of the work that we do. We even used it in figuring out if we should work together and design this business of Three Keys Consulting. Because just because we had worked together for 5 years at that point and knew how much the magic that we could make together and how we could really help individuals and organizations evolve, you want to make sure. And we believe that's probably one of the most important things about starting work together. So it's not surprising that we hear, and we'll talk a little bit more about our purpose and what we found out about ourselves, but it doesn't surprise me that we've been hearing a lot lately, both Jess and I, from our executive coaching clients. And these are senior executives, C-suite executives, emerging stars. They've been talking a lot about one thing, and that's finding their purpose. Once again, like I said before, the world of work is shifting and changing so much, and people are trying to figure out, what's that North Star? What's that thing that I should be aligning and figuring out, thinking about personally to guide me? Because we have a lot of decisions to make. And in the AI world, it's going to make us even more unique when we understand ourselves. The key is self-awareness. So it's really interesting to see how this is becoming a central focus. And not just for those at a career crossroads, but also for the highly accomplished leaders who want their work to matter more deeply. It reminds me of the conversations thought leaders like Brene Brown are having and have been having and elevating for years. It's that importance of aligning who you are with what you do.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
a great place is, I'm feeling like a little bit of a spark, a shine, a glow in the three of us right now. And I know that Jess and I are going to share a little bit about our purposes. So Jess, if you'd like to kick us off.
Let me just also kind of reflect back some of what you were sharing, Allison, because you and Jess are on one side of the desk, one side of the conversation. You're having a lot of folks come to you and say, "These are my problems. Please help me with them." Right? This is what's happening in our organization. These are our areas of opportunity. What direction should we go in? How do we make people feel more united, more connected as we're making these changes that are supposed to positively impact the business? And then where I exist is on the other side of that table, right? Maybe not even in that room or in those conversations, but at the forefront of these companies where we're all trying to figure out where do we fit in. Every conversation I have is maybe with a new organization or a new team. And some people have been there for years and some people are brand new. And a lot of times we're all trying to figure out where do we fit in? How do we work together? Does it matter if they have personality quirks? Is that really going to impact our ability to get the work done? And what about folks that aren't as focused on the work? How do you kind of tune out maybe some of their habits that you don't necessarily align with? So a lot of what you're talking about, finding this alignment, moving forward, finding your purpose, and also knowing that work is not everything. What's your fulfillment outside of work, and how do you show up at work to make life better for those around you? I mean, these are just the small things that we have autonomy over. And if we can find ways to just control our environment or maintain our headspace, I think it can go such a long way. So just wanted to kind of like mirror back maybe some of the feedback that you guys are hearing too on your end. And I'm just so grateful that you're able to share with all of us on this episode of Becoming about how can people find their purpose. So really excited to hear what that journey has been like for each of you, and then maybe some tangible tips for folks who want to do this in their own lives, and some questions they can ask themselves.
So I found my purpose in kind of a very long, very circuitous route. I remember since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to help people. And I didn't really know how to do that in a way that would um, connect with who I am as a person. I could volunteer for sure. I could do other things. But would I find joy in those as well? And volunteering is a big part of who I am. I do love to volunteer. But I also wanted to find a purpose that I had that could be my job and my career. And I kind of played around my whole life with, well, what are some helping jobs out there, right? Like, of course, there's teaching, and that was something that I thought about for a while. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe if I go over to this area, I would find something. And each place I went, I found something new about myself. I found out what I really liked about those through that exploration. I found things maybe I didn't like so much. I found out how they connected to me and like deep, like almost in my soul, how I felt when I was discovering and uncovering these things. And it wasn't until after college when I got my first big girl job and I started to see um, things that I thought we could do better. And for me, doing better in this particular job was finding ways to just stop using so much paper. It felt like we were using paper for literally everything that we did when we didn't have to. We had technology where we could, I'm not that old, but I have computers. So I remember I went to my boss and I had a conversation with him about how I think it's time we start doing things differently. And I went to him talking about we could save so many trees, we could save so much paper. And his response was like, that's cool, but no. And I walked away from that conversation so deflated and so defeated. Like, how could somebody not care about keeping trees around and healthy and finding new ways to do things that would be faster and better for the environment? And I took a lot of time after that to reflect on what was going on. And this was actually the first time I learned about meeting people where they're at. Because what mattered to me is not what mattered to him or other people in the organization. What mattered to them was saving money. What mattered to them was speed. What mattered to them was that we were not working these ridiculously late hours like we had been, where we were in the office sometimes till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And when I finally started to figure out what mattered to them, I could reframe my story and I could reframe where it was that we were heading and why it was so important to move into this new direction and really do that through some really powerful storytelling. And when I shifted to something that mattered to him and to others, all of a sudden they were on board and they were willing to try something new. We started small with some micro experiments, but we got to a point where after maybe like 6, 7 months, we were almost completely paperless. And everything we were doing was on the computer and doing it. We were no longer even sending things out to our board of directors through FedEx. We were doing things now just through email. And the response was so incredible during that time. And this is also when I really discovered what the heck change management is. And this is where I really started to see, oh my gosh, I'm able to help people. I'm able to make progress. I'm able to do things that are going to help people and align to what it is that I care most deeply about, which is humans. And it kind of felt like this lightning bolt moment for me where I realized after all these years of trying to figure out what the heck am I here to do, it just kind of struck me that this is it. This is how I'm going to help people. And that's where it was that I came from to my purpose.
So for me, I didn't arrive at my purpose overnight. My early corporate career spanned leadership roles in major global organizations where I learned how strategy and culture and execution come together and how they sometimes don't. I was delivering results, climbing the corporate ladder and hitting those milestones. But there was always a quiet question underneath. And it was really about, why does this matter to me? I'd always been identified as somebody who was, who would make a difference and was kind and cared about other people. And I was, recommended for different types of roles like that, like side gigs and working with the foundation or, helping to, rally the, the corporate social responsibility and others. But I really came to find that really understanding what my purpose is made the biggest difference in my life. And with that, that's where the real shift happened. And that's when I founded A School for Girls. It's a nonprofit dedicated to equipping high school girls with entrepreneurial and leadership skills, that they really need before they even out of their teens. And I'm really a very, very big believer in that. And I know how important it is that we all need that and we will all see the fruits of that. But these girls need it more than ever because it really will build their confidence. And that really lit me up. That work connected me to my passion for women's economic empowerment, and showed me an ability that I really didn't understand that I had. And that was around how to take all the work that I did in designing and implementing transformational change and learning experiences in corporate America and bring that into the social impact world. So it really gave me a lot of clarity that this purpose isn't something you add on to your career. It can and should be what goes throughout. It's like your red thread. And even, even validated in the past several years where I've been teaching and coaching at the Wharton School's chief executive programs and working with leaders from around the world. And that, like, seeing how they can grow and seeing how they can see themselves and be at their best, because it's really allowed me to help these executives like step back from the daily grind and show them something that I learned in their roles, and reconnect with their why, and then translate it into how they lead, making decisions and setting the strategy. So I've really come to believe that purpose is more than a personal compass. It's a leadership imperative. And in today's environment of constant change, and yes, we do love change. Obviously, that's what Jess and I are mainly focused on at Three Keys and our expertise. But that complexity that goes along with change, understanding and knowing your purpose can really keep you grounded and accelerate faster into something that is the future state that you're looking to go in. And it's going to help you be more successful, make better decisions, and actually inspire others to rally around a shared vision. There's nothing like it. Jess described it before. And you can feel that energy. And without it, it's easy to burn out. And you're chasing other people's definitions of success. And that was a big lesson for me. So I couldn't be more thankful to have taken the time to understand and find my purpose and then put it to work.
Allison, do you want to share about how we melded our purposes together to help us think about Three Keys?
I love that. Yes, definitely, Jess. Do you want to get started? Do you want me to? You tell me.
You go, and I'll chime in.
So I think, like I was saying before, when you find your purpose, you stop leading by default and you start leading by design. And we have a process to help you actually design that. It helps you define and understand what your impact that you can make in this world. So we have a pretty simple process. We think it is, and maybe you'd like to try it, see how you can work it. It's 5 simple steps to help you understand and get closer to your purpose and define it. So step 1, think about 3 real moments from your life. 1 is a proud moment. That's a time you felt proud of what you accomplished. Step 2, I'm sorry, not step 2. The second part of this, step 1, is like a flow moment. What's a time that you lost track of time because you were so engaged? I hope you have a lot of these, but at least figure out 1. And the impact moment. That's a time you made a difference for someone else. I hope you have a lot of these too.
Did you use those steps to kind of find your mutual purpose when you came together to create Three Keys?
Yes, we did. Well, to understand, we are very aligned on our purpose. And going through that first step in the process, we call it gathering your stories, is really, helped us because we learned more about each other that we had never known before, but also with very specific examples. So it was really helpful for us. And then we took it from there.
Yeah, we had some really important conversations about our purpose as individuals, and then what is our purpose even as an organization? What do we want that to be? And we followed this same framework that Allison started to share as we were building out what we wanted for Three Keys as well. And so it started, as Allison said, about gathering these stories around the proud moments, the flow moments, and these impact moments. And then when you look at those and you start mining those for some clues, you're looking for things like with each of those stories, what were you doing during that time? Who were you with? What skills or strengths were you using? And how you felt in each of those moments. It's so important to really start to go and dig in a little bit deeper when you're trying to figure out where it is that your purpose lies. And I'm a firm believer we all have a purpose in this world. And so sometimes it's hard to find out what that is. We don't always get to find out through those because of happenstance. But when we start to become really purposeful about trying to find our purpose, it really encourages, like Allison said, how it is that we navigate through this world, and that we're making choices because of who we are, and where it is that we want to be going, and what we want to be doing as our impact part of this world.
And then the next step that we go through is actually theming them. Jess and I do a lot of this, even in the survey work we do with our clients, really theming what we hear from people. But you're theming what you're hearing from yourself. And of course, you could do this with a partner. We do this many times with our executive coaching clients too. But like really, just go in, circle the words, the skills, the feelings, things that keep repeating in those three stories. And these are more clues for you, getting closer to what your purpose is. And many times they are below the surface, as we say, below the tip of the iceberg. So go with it, because that's really how you're going to get closest to the thing that is so important to you, that you would say, wow, this is one of the reasons I'm here. Like, this is my purpose, because it's a guidepost for you.
Yes, absolutely. And part of doing the work of trying to find these themes and circling them and understanding what they are, is so that you can then get to the next step, which is all around drafting your North Star statement, which is essentially a way to think about purpose as well, right? When we have a purpose and we're being mindful about that purpose, it can be used as a way to help us make decisions and make choices that are going to help us as individuals and help those around us within our community, within our organizations. And so we want to make sure that we understand in very clear and very simple terms what it is that our North Star or our purpose is. And so we kind of have, sometimes it's easiest if you got a place to start and it's not a blank slate. And so one of the things that we talk about is we help with our clients and ourselves. We say, I feel most on purpose when I'm using this skill or blank strength, and because I'm helping this group or this type of person so that they can achieve this impact or this outcome. And so it's always about thinking about where it is that we're heading. What is it that makes us feel like we're doing something most on purpose? Not on purpose, but on purpose. And so an example statement might look like, I feel most on purpose when I'm helping leaders see what's possible so they can guide their teams through change with confidence.
And like anything, the final step of this process is to test and tweak. Just because you put the sentence out there doesn't mean, wow, I'm done. I'm done with this. So ask yourself questions like, does this statement energize me? Does it feel true even when things get hard? And would I be proud if this were my legacy? That's like one of my favorites.
Every time I hear that one, I get goosebumps.
Exactly. And I mean, the lucky part of it, because you see Jess and I here, is that when we went through this process to design our business, it made sense. It was a really, really good, not just the practice of doing this together, but it's a place for us to go back to. And you know what? During the hard times and during wow, are we doing the right work? Are we working with the right clients? Did we come up with the right options? Many questions that we ask ourselves, we can go back and actually link up to our purpose. And I do it personally too. I mean, there's a lot of personal decisions. We're all multidimensional too. And if you think about the world of work in the future, you're probably not going to be one thing, be a few. And getting in front of what's important to you and what is your purpose, we really believe is going to help you be your best self and be your most successful.
One of the things that we talk about a lot too is like how distracting the world is today and how we're pulled in so many different directions all at the same time. And it can be really hard to just sit down and focus on where it is that we're supposed to be going. And I think that oftentimes when we know what that North Star statement is, we know what that purpose is, it's really so helpful in us refocusing our efforts, right? Refocusing where it is that we want to be, where we want to go. And if what you're doing is a distraction or if it's actually moving you where it is that you want to go.
Yeah. Such a great point, Jess.
Right. Yeah. Are we getting lost in the noise or are we being intentional? And I love this idea of living life with purpose and on purpose. And my mind is already churning and the gears are going, just thinking about all the ways that, we as a collective can implement the wisdom that you both are sharing and you both live out every single day. I'm just so grateful that you shared it with all of us. Do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
Well, one is if you want to find your purpose and use this process, but if you want somebody to help you think through it, definitely reach out to us. We're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone should take you up on that offer. You guys have the best open door policy I've ever seen. Very welcoming, very friendly, and always making time to be present for those who, make the effort to ask. I think it's as simple as that sometimes. You just have to ask. Closed mouths don't get fed and all of that. But anyway, Jess and Allison, thank you both for being on Becoming You. It's been such a pleasure and an honor to have you here and just to share your life experience and how you've been able to turn that into a business that helps a lot of organizations and a lot of people find fulfillment in their life and learn to live life on purpose.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you for having
Christina. We loved being here with you. It means everything.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys too. Until next time.
You are my most important listener, and I can't thank you enough for spending your time with me. If this content resonates with you, then hit subscribe. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube by following @ConnectorQueen. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you again on the next episode of Becoming You.